We're just waiting for our next guest to join us. And really, we teed him up on Friday before everything happened yesterday, our time. Iran launched hundreds of, suicide drones. What a dumb term it is. A drone has no sentient life. So a drone is just a drone attack. It's a flying bomb, okay? So Iran launches, in retaliation for an Israeli strike on its embassy in Syria, Iran launches hundreds of medium-range missiles and a few intercontinental ballistic missiles, really big ones in other words, and a whole lot of drones, and a missile strike that was incredibly well telegraphed to the Israelis and the international community. And whilst the pictures were dramatic and Twitter did what Twitter does and speculated and said World War III, etc., it appears that thanks to the intervention of not just the Israelis, the British, the Americans, the Jordanians, most of the missiles, maybe 3 or 4 got through and didn't cause any major damage or loss of life. All the rest of them were shot out of the air. And a lot of rhetoric. There's probably more rhetoric than's been flying around now than missiles. But not good when countries start throwing missiles at each other across other countries. And, of course, we're all concerned and we all want peace. I might add, for those who are screaming for a ceasefire on the side of that conflict, I hope you'll ask Iran for a ceasefire now that it seems to have got into the shooting in a pretty big way. But all this comes as our foreign minister has been, Winston Peters has been over in the United States. And our former prime minister, and as you know, I'm not particularly enamoured of former prime ministers acting like they run the country, but saying things about where we would stand or where we do stand in geopolitical terms in conflicts like this, because it does seem to be there is a east versus west, or there is a dividing line here. At the moment, we're kind of independent, though traditionally we have been on the side of the West and been part of that alliance. And our government seems moving us towards joining a thing called AUKUS, a new alliance between Australia, the UK and the United States, and there is a kind of second-class membership of that. You don't get into the really cool room in the nightclub, but you do get free drinks. Might be how you describe it. So where should we stand in this, and also what is going on in the Mideast? Our go-to guy on all this stuff is always Robert Patman, and he joins us again now. Robert, how are you?
Good morning, Sean. Fine, thank you.
All right. Look, the events of the weekend, whilst it's very easy to read Twitter and think World War III is coming and head for the bunker, the other narrative that I got emerging from some accounts that I follow and seem to be more rational is that in many ways this was almost a prearranged piece of saber-rattling by Iran, and no one was really meant to get hurt. It was, we fire the missiles, you shoot them down, our honour is restored, please don't do anything more bad to us. That's what's happened or not?
Not quite. I think there was indirect talks between the United States and Iran, but I think we should also look at what prompted this. And that was on the 1st of April, Israel launched an airstrike on Iran's diplomatic premises, the consulate in Damascus, which killed 7 people, including 3 senior military officials. That action contravened the Vienna Convention in 1961, which said that.
So does that make the missile strike all right?
Sorry?
Does that make the missile strike by Iran okay then?
No, it doesn't, because 2 wrongs don't make a right. But what I'm saying is that I was a bit concerned that the United States, which was the Biden administration, was not briefed on the Israeli attack on the Iranian consulate and was privately irritated by it because they saw it as dangerous and also illegal. They didn't publicly rebuke Israel for that, which I think was a mistake, because I think that could have taken the onus away from Iran having to feel that having, in its words, the diplomatic premises in Damascus under international law, or the equivalent of its territory, and having received an attack on its territory, it felt obliged to respond. But you're quite right. Then there was intense discussions behind the scenes involving the United States with the Iranian government through intermediaries. How could Iran respond? And I'm not saying it was choreographed. There were no surprises. Many of us thought Iran would respond through through its proxies like Hezbollah or the Houthis.
Yeah.
But it decided to send Israel the message. So they certainly threw a lot of missiles and drones at Israel, and it was a serious situation. Israel, I think, with its allies, performed a Herculean effort and seemed to intercept virtually all of them, and there was just one person slightly injured. But, Iran then said that's it. That concludes our operation. We'll wait and see whether Mr. Netanyahu believes that is the end of the matter. The Americans are saying quite firmly to Mr. Netanyahu, we don't support any retaliation to that attack.
So it's almost like a ritualistic form of war. I mean, it's quite amazing to think that international diplomacy works at that level, Robert, but you're telling me that's what's really happened here. We need to respond. What I'm saying how do we respond without starting World War III?
I think neither Iran nor the United States want the situation to escalate, and they don't want a direct confrontation. For Mr. Netanyahu, the situation's different. He's extremely worried about Iran's growing nuclear capabilities. He may see this as an opportunity to take on Iran, and Mr. Netanyahu is under a lot of domestic pressure for not in the views of his domestic critics, not getting the hostages released.
Yeah.
For Mr. Netanyahu, the continuation of the conflict in political terms is not a bad thing, because it takes the pressure off him, and he can change the conversation somewhat when Iran wades in.
Yeah, but he just wants his hostages back. That's what Israel wants, isn't it?
Yes, of course he does. But he's come under a lot of fire on precisely that issue. A lot of Israelis are saying that Mr. Netanyahu's approach was that military pressure in Gaza would generate the release of the hostages. And people have said, well, you haven't actually done the sort of deal that Hamas would release the hostages. So there is tension there.
Yeah. But we can, we don't need, as I said, to head for the fallout shelters just yet. This was, if you like, performance conflict.
It's a very dangerous, I think you're right, Sean, but I think it's a very dangerous situation. And I think the Americans are doing their best to persuade Netanyahu. The view overnight was that Mr. Biden said to Netanyahu in a phone conversation, Bibi, take the win.
Yeah.
You don't, move on. Don't make the situation worse. And the Iranians have issued quite a strong warning that they won't hesitate to respond to any response from Iran. And what we don't want is this mindless tit-for-tat violence.
Yeah, I get you.